Hello there, good morning. Welcome everyone, welcome back to my channel. Today I've brought to you an important video, a very important service on the AWS platform, that is EC2. EC2 is one service on AWS console that is used on a very large scale. What is EC2? Why is it used? What are the instance types? What are the pricing models? What are the purchase options? What do you mean by storage and how it is configured with respect to EC2? How do you secure your EC2 instance? And what is networking related to, and how networking plays an important part when it comes to EC2 instance? All these things we'll try and discuss in today's session. So, before we start, I'd like to tell you that this video is a part of my playlist on AWS DevOps. So, if you have not seen the previous videos, please do have at those videos. Please do have a look at those videos so that it will be easy for you to understand the concepts which I try and explain you here. So, what is EC2? EC2 stands for Elastic Compute Cloud. EC2 is a virtual server. You can call EC2 as a virtual server, which is provided by AWS in the cloud. Instead of buying, you know, hardwares, we can rent those hardwares, rent the services from the AWS platform. So EC2 is such service which we can rent, we can use as per the pay-as-you-go model, and we can host our applications on this EC2 instance. So EC2 can also be termed as a server. You can also term EC2 as a server. You can call it as a server. You can call it as an instance. You can call it by any name. You can also call it as VM. VM stands for virtual machine. Anything, any of the name you can use to, denote a server or a EC2 instance. So what do you mean by EC2? EC2 is Elastic Compute Cloud, as I mentioned. The word elastic. Now, this is very important. Why do I use this word elastic here? Elastic in general means flexible, right? Why is this flexible? Why is the EC2 service flexible? It is flexible because when it comes to configuring the instance, when it comes to configuring the server, there are two most important aspects. The first aspect is going to be compute. That is the compute power which comes with respect to our CPU, and the second one is going to be our memory. That is the RAM. Like more the RAM, more the faster the execution of a process will be. But why do I call this service elastic? This is because I can modify the compute resource, I can modify the memory optimization as per the requirement of the application, as per the requirement of the client. The word out here is very important. That is increase or decrease the CPU or RAM anytime, right? So this is going to help us optimize cost. This is going to help us optimize the performance of the application as well. If there is a need, we can go on to launch multiple servers or multiple instances or multiple EC2 instances. It's one and the same thing, right? Scale down when not needed. What do you mean by scale down? Scaling comes in two ways. Vertical scaling First one is vertical scaling, and the second one is horizontal scaling. Now, what is vertical scaling? Vertical scaling means you can modify the instance with respect to its CPU, with respect to its memory, and such other resources vertically. That means if a particular instance is having two CPUs, I can go on to modify it to, let's say, four virtual CPUs and so on. That is, I am going to increase the capacity of that instance. Whereas, what do you mean by horizontal instance? If there is one server which I am being using in my infrastructure, I want to provision yet another server. What I'll be doing is I'll be creating a replica of the same server sidewise, right? The replica of the previous server, this server X. If this is server X, the replica of this server is being created X, Y, Z, and W. This is what is horizontal scaling. The servers are being replicated. Whereas vertical scaling, it's going to go upward and downwards. If there is two CPU, I'm going to increase it to four virtual CPUs, eight virtual CPUs, and so on. Finally, this makes vertical scaling and horizontal scaling clear to all of us. Let's continue. We can also stop or terminate the instance. Like if I'm done with my workload, if I'm done with the hosting of my application, if my requirements are fulfilled, I can go on to stop the server as well. This will ensure that the resources are not running and I am not billed unnecessary for the resources which are not required, right? So this is very important, that elastic means flexible. Elastic means flexible. Why is this flexible? Because I can vertically or horizontally scale the resources. Vertically means I can increase the number of CPUs. Horizontally means I can create replicas of this servers X, Y, Z, W, and so on. So this makes elastic, the term elastic in EC2 clear to all of us. Let's go ahead. Where does EC2 find its application in the real world? Where does EC2 find its application? Hosting websites. You can host static websites. I'll be giving a demonstration of how to host a website, how to host a, let's say, HTML based website. A code which is written, let's say, in HTML, will be hosting it on the EC2 platform in the upcoming video. So this is one application. Then running enterprise applications, then making use of CI/CD tools like Jenkins can be hosted on EC2 instance. For database, for testing environments, for disaster recovery, there are multiple real life use cases of EC2 where EC2 finds its applications. The third part which we want to understand today is related to the EC2 instance type. Now instance types come in five important categories. The instance types, there are five important instance type. When we speak about instances, there are five important instance type. Now which are those? The first one is general purpose instance. What do you mean by general purpose instance? It has balanced configuration for CPU and memory, right? So let's say if there is an instance, if this is my instance and it is having 50% of the CPU being configured on it properly, it is giving almost 50% of the weightage to the RAM as well. So equally CPU and RAM are having the weightage on that server. In that case, you can call this instance as a general purpose instance. Now, in general purpose instance, how do you use it, or where can you use this general purpose instances? It can be used in web servers or small applications development servers. In this cases, general purpose instances find their use cases applications. What are the examples? If someone asks you what is an example of a general purpose EC2 instance, you can say T2 micro or T3 micro or M5 large. Now you may want to ask me, what do you mean by T2 dot micro, right? So this question should come to your mind, right? T stands for the family to which this belongs. So T is for general purpose. So the instance is going to belong to the general purpose family. 2 is for generation. 2 is for generation. And micro means it's the size. It's a small instance. It's a small server. That is why we have made use of the word micro here. So this is how you identify and categorize the instance type with respect to its size. Let's go ahead. The second instance here is compute optimized instance. Now, just have a look at this block which I have drawn here above. In general purpose instance, what was happening was we were giving same weightage, CPU as well as RAM, equal weightage were given because it was a general purpose instance. But that won't be a case in compute optimized instance. In compute optimized instance, what you can do is you can understand from the name itself that CPU will be having, let's say, 80% of the weightage, whereas when it comes to the memory, it will be having, let's say, 20% of the weightage. So maximum weightage is being given on the CPU part. The maximum weightage is being given on the CPU part. Similarly, you can identify with the instance type name. That C again here stands for the version, the family, that is compute. C stands for compute. 5 stands for the generation, and large means it's the large instance type which we are using. Where does compute optimized instances find its application? It is finds its application in gaming servers, in video processing, batch processing, etc. So this is the second instance type, which is very important. This kind of questions are normally asked in solution architect examination, or if you're giving a fundamental AWS examination, that let's say I am having a simple web server which is supposed to be hosted. In that case, which instance type will you select? So general purpose in that case. If you are having a gaming application which requires more compute resource, in that case, what type of EC2 instance you will be using? You can go on to make use of the compute optimized instance. So this is the way you try and answer these questions. So I'll quickly go through the next part. I'll quickly go through memory optimized instance. So in this case, it's going to have high RAM. Examples will be R5 large, X large, used for database, in memory caching. So here what is going to happen is, as I mentioned previously, CPU will be having lesser weightage, let's say 30% of the weightage, and RAM in this case will be giving more priority, let's say 60%, and remaining for storage. Right. So this is how you can go on to identify a memory optimized instance, and this is the purpose of memory optimized instance, which requires high memory for its running applications, because databases are not require need to retrieve data in a short period of time, that needs to process the data. In those cases, you will be requiring high RAM configuration. Next, let's go on to discuss about storage optimized instance. So what about storage? In applications like big data, data warehousing, you are saving, crucial data, critical data. In that cases, you require fast SSDs and HDD storages. So for that case, we, normally go on to make use of the storage optimized instance. It comes with instance types like i3.large or d2.large, and it's being used for general purpose applications like big data, data processing, data warehousing. Finally, we'll come to the GPU instances. In GPU instances, it's used more for the machine learning purpose, the AI models and all, for graphics and AI based applications. Whenever a question is asked to you which relates to AI or graphics, in that case, you can go on to make use of the GPU. That is, general purpose. The GPU graphic based instances, user based instances can be used in this case. Finally, we'll discuss about the EC2 pricing options. So, how do you purchase a EC2 instance? First and foremost, it can be on-demand instance. In on-demand instance, you are going to pay per second or hour, like you're going to pay for whatever time you're going to use that resource. Best is, it can be a short-term usage, like if there is a application, if there is a website which you want to host for a small period of time, but you don't want any downtime, in that case, you can go on to make use of the on-demand instance for testing purposes, for new projects, for, if doesn't have a long time commitment, it is supposed to be used for a short period of time, you can go on to use on-demand instances. But always remember, when it comes to on-demand instances, the prices are going to be high. Let's go ahead. Reserved instances. What are reserved instances? This is the second category of instance. It is committed, like, you can use this instance for 1 year or 3 year. You can, reserve the usage of that instance. It is definitely, cheaper than on-demand instances, and it's used for stable workloads. Then comes savings plan, where flexible discount models are being given, lower prices are being, given for certain sets of EC2 instances, and it's being used in companies on a large scale. Finally, spot instances. This is very important. Spot instances are instances which, organization or a unit can, procure through bidding, right? So these type of instances are not reliable. They can be terminated at any time by AWS. If AWS gets a person or gets an organization who is going to charge, who are going to pay them more for this instance type, they will directly go on to terminate this, right? So if you are running any critical workload onto this particular instance, then there will be a severe loss, there will be a downtime, there will be an issue which one has to face. So only for testing purposes, if you want to test something, if you want to just run for the purpose of analyzing on a small time frame, you can go on to make use of the spot instances. So these unused AWS capacity instances which AWS gives you at low cost, they are almost 90% cheaper. But AWS, as I said, if anyone bids for it higher rate than what you are using, it can go on to terminate it. Like AWS will terminate it. So if you are running any critical workload, it is not recommended, right? Let's go back. Let's go to the last instance type now. That is the dedicated host. What is dedicated host? As the name suggests, it has physical resources entities reserved like racks for one customer only. Like it's used for compliance purpose. Is your data secure? Is your hardware secure? Are you keeping it isolated? Do you have a dedicated rack? Do you have a dedicated host? In that cases, this particular type of instance type is used. Like pricing option is being used when we speak about dedicated host or dedicated instances. So these are the five types of EC2 purchasing option: on demand, reserved, saving, spot, dedicated host, or you can also call it as dedicated instances. Let's come back to the last session of today's topic, that is storage in EC2. Now, when we speak about EC2 instance, now let's say this is my EC2 instance. Fine, works well. Okay, let's say this is my EC2 instance. This is my EC2 instance, right? This is my EC2 server, right? So for this EC2 server, there is a EBS attached to it. For every EC2 server, there is a EBS attached to it. What do you mean by EBS? EBS stands for Elastic Block Store. EC2 instances are servers, but what about storage? There has to be some storage attached to my EC2 instance, to my server. That server, that purpose, the purpose of this server is being met by the EBS. We also call this as Elastic Block Store, or you can also term this as volume. This is volume. So every EC2 instance has a volume attached to it. It's just like a hard disk. You can see it's mentioned here. It's just like a hard disk. So it comes in various types. It can be GP2 or GP3. Generally, these days we do make use of GP3, that is general purpose class 3 type of storage type. When it comes to EBS volumes, you can attach volumes and increase the size anytime. Let's say this is an EBS volume. It's almost, let's say it is 32 GB, and after some time you come to know that there is a requirement to try and upgrade it. There is need to try and increase the size. You can go on to increase the size, right? But reducing the size is not that easy. It takes some task. An interview question can be asked, can you increase the size of an EBS volume? Yes, you can. But can you decrease it? Yes, you can decrease it, but not on the go. There is a different methodology attached to it. It is not that easy. You will have to remove this volume from the EC2 instance. You have to detach this volume from the EC2 instance and then modify it and then again attach it to a different EC2 instance. So the process is going to be different. So for the time being, you can just understand, you can just remember that yes, EBS, the volume can be increased depending upon the requirement. Let's go ahead. Networking, like when it comes to EC2 instances, if this is my EC2 instance, EC2, as I mentioned to you, every EC2 instance will be coming with a EBS, that is Elastic Block Store. For storage, for data storage, EC2 will also come with private IP. So this private IP is for internal communication for servers within the VPC, right? Public IP, if you want a public IP, you can also host a public IP, but This will be used to communicate with the outside world. This is optional. If you enable the protocols HTTPS and HTTP, then you can go on to access the public IP, access through the instance to the public IP as well. So this is a secondary part. Secondly, every EC2 instance also comes with a security group. It comes with a security group. Now what do you mean by security group? So the security group is like the net. It's just a net. The we play badminton, the badminton net is there, right? So through this badminton net, set of blocks or units, or let's say ball in this case, of a desired size will only pass through it depending upon the size of the net. The units which are larger than the net size won't be passing through this net, right? So if I try to throw a golf ball through this net, yes, it may pass, right? But if I try to push a basketball through it, it won't pass, right? Because of the size of the basketball, isn't it? In the same way, the security group has certain rules. It has certain rules defined. So these rules are called as inbound and outbound rules. These rules are inbound and outbound rules. So these rules allow a particular user, a particular protocol, a particular port to access, or the access is denied. So security group is a set of rule which allows the EC2 instance to be accessed by certain external entities. Similarly, this is very important. Security group is a very important aspect when it comes to the AWS security and the DevSecOps operations. So security group is going to ensure that certain set of ports are enabled. Only certain set of hosts can interact with my EC2 instance. Who can talk to my EC2 instance? Security group will decide. Which ports are open on my EC2 instance? Security group will decide. So the security group is the most important aspect when it comes to providing security to my EC2 instance. So that's it for the session today. I have covered some important parts in today's session. That is introduction to EC2, the pricing models, the purchase options, the storage, the security, right? So this will help us, try and understand when I go on to deploy a web-based application in my coming video. In the playlist, when I'll be uploading the new video, I'll be trying to deploy a web application. So I'll be adding that video in the same playlist. So this theoretical part will help you try and understand that concept. That is why I introduced you with this introduction part first, and in the coming video I'll be giving you a proper hands-on practical session on hosting a static website onto an EC2 instance. So if you have understood the concept, if you have learned from this video, please don't forget to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and share the video. Thank you.